In fact, the president may call it a hoax and a lame Democratic excuse, but the Russia investigation is hitting closer and closer to home. First word of an early morning FBI raid on a home owned by former Trump campaign chief Paul Manafort. That bold tactic clearly got the president's attention.
I thought it was a very, very strong signal or whatever. I know Mr. Manafort. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but I know him. He was with the campaign, as you know, for a very short period of time, relatively short period of time, but I've always known him to be a good man. I thought that was a very, that was pretty tough stuff.
Mr. President,
to wake him up, perhaps his family was there, I think that's pretty tough stuff.
Now, we knew Manafort and the president's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., are under investigation for meetings and contacts with Russians. And now the New York Times is reporting that special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of possible collusion or interference includes interest in talking to current and former top West Wing staffers, including the former White House Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. That's the stuff that gets under the president's skin.
There is no collusion. You know why? Because I don't speak to Russians. Look, I won because I suppose I was a much better candidate than her. I won because I went to Wisconsin. I went to Michigan. I won Pennsylvania. I fought a smart battle. That's why I win. I didn't win because of Russia. Russia had nothing to do with me winning. The thing that we had a great team, and I guess I did a good job.
We don't know where this goes. The president knows a lot more about it than we do, and his legal team does. But when you raid Paul Manafort's home, and when you're now saying we want to talk to White House officials, including the former chief of staff, about the firing of James Comey, who was in the meeting, what did the president say beforehand? What did he say after? Who else was involved in the decision? That's about potential interference or obstruction more than the collusion the president always says never happened. Again, we don't know where it's going, but we do know from just those two developments that we're at this for a while.
And we do know this is going to continue to be a major distraction for this White House. I mean, these White House officials are lowering up. They need attorneys to deal with a lot of these questions that are going to come from Bob Mueller. The president can dismiss this all he wants, but this is incredibly serious. Bob Mueller has a significant team of lawyers who are digging into this. They have a budget where they're going to go at this pretty aggressively. We're talking a lot about the issue of possible coordination, collusion. There are other meetings that have not been reported yet that that's clearly that Mueller is looking into as well. They have leads, of course, exploring these things. And the issue of obstruction is another separate issue from the whole idea of possible collusion. So the president can dismiss it all he wants, but this is very serious.
And in a White House that has recurring chaos and recurring disruption, we didn't mention, where's the chief of staff in this whole Charlottesville response? He was supposed to bring focus and discipline to the White House, but what I remember from the Clinton White House days, when 8A has to go before a grand jury or get investigated by the grand counsel, it just starts a conversation across the building that has nothing to do with what you're trying to accomplish that day.
We're in a phase now where everybody who doesn't have a lawyer is getting a lawyer or looking for a lawyer. And guess what? Like, that's no surprise. This is actually the least surprising development. We have always known that this was coming. And as you begin to see major and key staff turnovers, which you would at any White House, but usually after the 1-year mark or the 2-year mark, things are a little sped up now. But you're going to see people moving on. You've seen a couple of big ones like Reince Priebus, Sean Spicer. That makes them a different kind of target or subject for investigators to want to talk to, because when they become detached from the White House, their knowledge of the day-to-day recedes a little bit, but their knowledge of what they knew when they were there perhaps becomes easier to talk about. And even if some of these aides still feel loyalty to the president, even if they think the president didn't do anything wrong, they still have information about basic facts. Were you in the room during that meeting? What happened? What didn't happen? What was said? What wasn't said? What memos are there? And that helps the investigators to build timelines or kind of fact sheets for whatever it is that they're going toward.
And the truth is, regardless of John Kelly coming in, an investigation like this is not like regular politics. It can't be controlled. And that's what the developments of the week remind us, is that investigation marches forward, and there's no amount of political spin or whatever that's going to stop it.
And to your point earlier about Republican cracks, the Republicans on Capitol Hill support Bob Mueller, support their own investigations 1,000%.
Right, they do. I mean, they as they have said a long time, they think that Mueller is pretty much beyond reproach. They support Jeff Sessions staying in place, who, you know, if he goes, that would be a way for Trump to begin to try to get rid of Mueller. And they also think that the investigation will exonerate him, but the more steps Trump takes to try to dissuade things, the more difficult he's making it for himself.
Difficulty makes it. Everybody sit tight. Our reporters share from their notebooks next, including the president's feud with the Senate Majority Leader and an endorsement that has the GOP base labeling the president a, quote, backstabber.